We are doing a broadcast via Blog Talk Radio, and we're also doing it on terrestrial radio in the Kingdom. All right, you are tuned into Peace FM 90.1, and you are tuned into the Raw Truth. All right, I must warn the listeners that the views and topics discussed on the Raw Truth are not necessarily those of Peace FM's opinion, but we apologize for those who it might offend. And if you are easily offended, now will be a good time to turn your radio off. All right. I'm going to go ahead, Rabbi, and let you introduce yourself to the listeners, what it is that you are, who you are, and so forth. And we can get the show back on the road, all right?
Okay. Well, my name is Rabbi Yehuda Ben Shomer, and I run two websites on the Internet. The first and most prominent one is www.abrahamsdescendants.com, and that is mainly a educational teaching website regarding Messianic and Netzari Judaism. And then I also have a second website called www.ibuhebrew.com, and this presents the historic, linguistic, archaeological, cultural, scientific evidence regarding the Igbo people of Nigeria and their connection to the Hebrew and Jewish people. Mainly the Igbo people are mainly from the lost tribe of Gad through Gad's sons Eri, Areli, and Arodi, but there's also other tribes of Israel that are mixed in with the Igbos as well. So those are the two main sites that I run. So I'm mostly an internet rabbi, rabbi online. Where I live in a very small community in a small village, so most of my outreach is on the Internet.
Okay. All right. I think Ella Rakar is here with us as well. Ella Rakar, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Hold up one second. We have another
yes.
host here. Ella Rakar, how you doing, man?
Yes, blessings. How are you this evening?
I'm good, man. Sorry about apologies for the late start. It's been a bit hectic here in the studios. I'm gonna pass it over to you and let you continue, okay?
Okay, blessings. How are you this evening, sir?
Oh, I am well. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have an international broadcast. Let's see if we can some of the feedback. The feedback. Excuse me, we're having a little technical difficulty because we're dealing with this worldwide broadcast. Hey, guys, can you do something with the feedback?
All righty, one second. Let me just guess. Tell me if this is better, all right?
Okay. All right, this is better. You can hear me clearly, Rabbi. Let us have your name once more.
My name is Rabbi Yehuda Ben Shomer.
Okay. Well, is it okay if we just call you Yehuda?
Yeah, that's
short
fine.
Today? Okay,
yeah, that's
great.
fine. No problem at all.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about a few topics. I know we only have you here for about 90 minutes this evening, correct?
A little bit shorter than that because of the late start, but we'll get into as much time as we possibly can.
Okay, well, let's jump right into it, all right? First off, I would like to thank you for coming on to the show, and to bless you. My name is Elder Rikar Shiar from the Gathering of Christ Church. It's ironic that you were speaking of the Igbo people and others of African descent who you have found that they are from the lost tribes of Israel. Let me ask you a few questions because it seems as if there's a few questions we sent you. Let's go through a few of those first. See if we can go through a few of them. Just touch on them since we're short on time. First of all, what are the different sects of Judaism, and what is Judaism? It's because we tend to more so believe, growing up where we were, that if you studied Judaism, that you were an Israelite according to the Bible. That's what we were taught in church. But is Judaism a religion or is it bloodline?
I would have to say yes to both. It's one of those unique things that it's a religion, but it's also an ethnicity as well. And that's very unique. You can't really say that about any other religion or faith out there. So Judaism, or being Jewish, is not only a religion, but it's also an ethnicity. And some of the sects of Judaism, you have the ultra-Orthodox, which under that umbrella there are little different groups. One is called the Satmars. They're considered ultra-Orthodox. Then you have the Orthodox, and underneath the Orthodox you have groups such as Chabad, also known as the Lubavitchers. You also have Breslov. Then you have conservative Judaism, Reform Judaism. Some would even throw in Reconstructionist Judaism. And then you also have the other sects of Judaism that are sort of that have become in our day the black sheep of the family, if you will, which is Messianic and Nazari Judaism. That is the Judaism that believes that Yeshua is the Messiah, but also keeps the customs and traditions of the Jewish people by following the Torah, or the law of Moses.
Okay. Well, thank you for quantifying that for us and our listeners this evening. Moving right along, study the Bible, and I know you're a fervent studier of not only the Bible but other texts. Let me ask you, because a lot of these sects and terms that you're bringing up this evening, most of us, who go to church, who predominantly read the Bible, these things may be foreign to a lot of our listeners. Let me ask you, just according to the Bible, outside of all the little political things that have happened through history that have split all these different sects or what have you, just according to the Bible, who would you say are the 12 tribes of Israel today?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. The 12 tribes of Israel, according to the Word of God, are the descendants of Jacob and his two wives, Rachel and Leah, and their handmaids, Zilpah and Bilhah. So we know, that the 12 tribes are Ephraim, Manasseh, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Gad, Asher, Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali. And you have the Babylonian captivity and the Assyrian captivity, and that is what has caused the scattering of the 12 tribes. Now, there's a big difference between the Babylonian and Assyrian captivity. The Babylonian captivity took away the tribes of Judah and Levi and a little bit of Benjamin that was kind of living among Judah at the time. Now, the thing about the Babylonian captivity is that captivity eventually came to an end, and those that were in that captivity returned to the promised land, returned to Israel. And that is who we recognize as the Jewish people today, because the Babylonian captivity was predominantly Judah and Levi. That's where we get the word Jew from, is from the word Judah. So most of the Jews that we recognize today are from the tribe of Judah and the priestly tribe of Levi. Then you have the Assyrian captivity, which have taken the 10 tribes and scattered them all over the world. The thing about the Assyrian captivity is that it has never come to an end. They were taken off in captivity and scattered across the world and settled and mostly assimilated into the peoples in which they settled. So there's people that are Hebrews and Israelites and that are part of the 10 tribes that are walking on the earth, and they don't have a clue that they are. So in these last days, one of the things is finding these lost 10 tribes and uniting these 10 tribes back with the tribe of Judah and back with the tribe of Levi to make these 12 tribes again. So the 10 tribes are scattered all over the world.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up because, all right, what steps are being taken internationally to actually bring those 10 tribes back? Who are they? Can we identify them physically today?
Some of them we can, and some of them we can't. I can only really talk about Gad because that has been the majority of my research, is the lost tribe of Gad. We know that Gad ended up in Nigeria. Gad ended up in Ghana and other parts of Africa. They can be found among the Igbo people of Nigeria and the Ga people of Ghana. And not only that, but in my research I have found, strangely and oddly enough, the connection between the Germanic Scandinavian peoples and the lost tribe of Gad as well. So, ironically, the Germanic Scandinavians and the African Hebrews that are from Gad, they're brothers, they're related. There's also speculation that Gad, a small portion of Gad, ended up in southern Spain. There's also speculation that some of Gad, maybe because of the revolt of Masada, not all the people there committed suicide. Josephus says that some got on a boat and sailed in the direction of what we know as the Americas. So it's speculated that even some of the Native American tribes could possibly be from the tribe of Gad. So that's at least who Gad is. But a lot of other tribes, such as Dan, can be found in the Sudan of Africa. Levites can be found in Ethiopia and around that area with the Limba tribe. They've actually been genetically proven to be from the tribe of Levi. That's the only tribe is Levi that can be genetically for sure identified, because there's a unique aspect to that, which is called the Cohen gene. And the Cohen gene is present among the Limba people. So they've officially been recognized as Levites. But you also have some of the 10 tribes that were in the Assyrian captivity that were scattered over North Africa, scattered all over Europe, North and South America. It's a worldwide phenomena. So it's been speculated that some of Ephraim and Manasseh ended up in the Americas. Reuben it possibly went to France. Simeon, because of the prophecy with Levi and Simeon that you don't put them together, those two tribes have been scattered. So it's not really clear where Simeon is. And Levi, they're scattered all over the world as well, especially among Judah. But you have Issachar, which some people believe may be the Swiss or the Finnish people. Zebulun, some people believe they're from the Netherlands. Asher, possibly from Ireland. Benjamin, he's been scattered among the Jews as well, but also possibly Scandinavians as well, Scandinavian tribes. Dan is thought to be part of the Danish people and the Celts. But we also see the tribe of Dan in Africa as well. And Naphtali is said to be part of the Norwegians. But some of these tribes that I've mentioned, especially like Naphtali, Dan, Asher, Gad, Zebulun, Issachar, they are believed that a lot of those ended up in Africa as well and were scattered all over Africa.
Okay. Well, going back to one point real quick, when you were speaking of Masada, where you said in Josephus some got on a boat and escaped to the Americas. Wasn't those that was left in Masada, wasn't they predominantly from the southern kingdom, where you had Judah, Benjamin, and Levi there?
Yes, predominantly they were. But even among the Jews, even among the southern kingdom, you did have a smattering of some of the other tribes as well who decided to stay around Jerusalem. So, but yeah.
So you're saying that these were Gadites in particular that got on the boat, that went to that's being tracked to the Americas?
Well, there's speculation that there are, because there has been made some connections between, especially the Cherokee and the Lakota, that they could possibly be from Judah or Gad. But
because we've actually found some research that linked them to Gad. Maybe we can share this offline.
That would be wonderful. That would help out. That would help me out so much. I'd so much appreciate that.
Okay. Well, great. Well, moving along, because I know we're short for time now. Going into more, I would say, transitioning past the diaspora into a few of what we would call the conversion in some instances. Are you familiar? I know you are, because you seem like you're a quite learned historian. Are you aware of the Khazarian conversion and the controversy concerning it? When I say the controversy concerning it, usually when one bring up the Khazarian conversion, and I would like to bring Finkelstein in it. I know you are knowledgeable when it comes to Finkelstein, which is really a world-renowned historian who have gotten a lot of pushback. He actually brings forth some of the history of the Khazarian conversion and get much pushback because of it. Even him being Jewish, in some terms, he's being called anti-Semitic. Usually when someone brings up the Khazarian conversion into Judaism, they're called anti-Semites in some instances. Can you give us some understanding of what happened? Because usually it seems as if there's a large percentage of people who are now Jewish through the Khazarian conversion. Is that so?
Well, yes and no. I have read The 13th Tribe by Arthur Koestler, and he is one of the proponents of that theory that the Khazars are actually converts. But there is another author, his name is Yair Davidi. He wrote a book called The Khazars, The 13th Tribe, and he actually says that they are quite possibly a lost tribe that had assimilated into the people groups that were around that area, the Caspian Sea and the Black Mountains and things, and around that area. And they assimilated and essentially became Gentile because they forgot who they are. But yet that there was legends and there were things in their oral traditions and past that linked them to some of the lost tribes like Manasseh, Ephraim, Simeon, and things of this nature. So when they actually converted, they just actually came back to what they originally were anyway. The 13th Tribe by Arthur Koestler was a very politically charged, politically motivated type book. And after the book, many years after the book, it was brought out that some of the documents that he used to try to prove his point were actually falsified. They were actually doctored. And Yair Davidi, in his book, The Khazars of the 13th Tribe, kind of fleshes that out and shows that. Now, even so, let's just assume that the Khazars are converts and they have no affiliation with Hebraic lineage or Jewish lineage whatsoever. I basically say, so what? Because if they converted, according to Jewish tradition, a convert is supposed to be treated just like a native born. Not only that, but if they were converts, which I don't believe they were, I believe they were actually part of the lost tribe. But if they were converts, they would have married into Hebraic and Jewish lines, and today the Gentile aspect would have been totally wiped out because of the intermarriage with the Hebraic and Jewish lineages. And that's also kind of the interesting thing about the Assyrian captivity is that the lost 10 tribes are virtually of every ethnicity, every color on the face of the earth. Why? Because when they were scattered and they were settled among the various peoples of the world, you had things such as pogroms and Holocaust, but not only that, but you had willing intermarriages. So a lot of these genetic lines have been blurred and have been mixed. So it's almost a reversal of the Tower of Babel, if you will, where all the languages were confounded and the people were scattered. Through genetics, through the Gentiles mingling with these lost tribes, they, through genetics, have been brought into the family of Israel in that sense. And it's almost a reversal, if you will.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering that. Moving along. Okay. All right. Going into just speaking on the conversion real quick, going back there just for a moment. We had some history concerning the religion of the Khazarians that link back to Rome and also Canaanite gods. Are you familiar with that, or?
Well, I'm no expert in that. I know a little bit about it, but not too much.
Okay, all right. Just asking because maybe the answer you have is if they were following the ways of Gentiles, and when they, as you put it, when they found the right path, they chose that. So I guess that'll be the answer to that. Let me ask you this: moving forward, when it comes to what we all know today as the Jewish Holocaust, which have cited much controversy in our modern time, questioning the number of who died and how many died and all that. I don't want to go there and rehash all that. What I want to talk about concerning the Jewish Holocaust as we know today, as far as your study, what prophecy in Scripture would you bring forth in particular if one was to ask you, is that particular Holocaust Bible prophecy, as far as what happened in Germany? Is that Bible prophecy? Is that more so something more so political?
Well, I know that there's a lot of politics behind it, but I would also say that you could say that there are prophecies in regards to this as well. The one that I would cite that sticks out in my mind the most is the prophecy in Deuteronomy chapter 28. Many people would say, well, that's not a prophecy. That's just Moses telling what would happen to Israel if they disobeyed the Torah, if they walked away from the covenant of God. Well, yeah, exactly. And so in essence, that would be a prophecy, because he's saying if you do walk away, this is going to happen. It's prophesied that these things will happen. And so if you read carefully Deuteronomy chapter 28, it's very blunt. It's very grisly. It's not a pretty picture at all of what would happen to the children of Israel if they forsook the Torah, if they forsook the covenant of God. And through the Holocaust, we see that everything that is listed and everything that was mentioned in Deuteronomy 28 happened to the Jewish people in the Holocaust. But not only that, I'll go on even further to say this, that the slave trade is actually connected to Deuteronomy 28, because the majority of the slaves that were brought to the Caribbean islands and brought to the Americas were Ibu people, were people of Hebrew and Hebraic Israelite descent, if you will. And so if you read Deuteronomy chapter 28, it matches perfectly what happened to the Hebrew slaves, the black Hebrew slaves, during the slave trade. It just matches it perfectly.
Back up now. I think we just rung a bell here. Hold up now.
Okay.
Hold up. Hold the presses.
Okay.
Hold up. I hope everyone is listening to this. This is you about to rock some boats now, Ben Yehuda there. Hold up now. Listen to what he's saying here. So you are saying that there's a great chance, or more so, that the black people that links directly to the slave trade are from the lost tribes of Israel. Is that what you're saying here, sir?
Yes, I am. Now, granted, I will qualify that I don't. Wait a second. I don't believe that every single black person is Hebraic or Jewish, but I'm saying that the majority of the slaves involved in the slave trade were Hebrews. Okay, all right. Let's just stop there for a moment. Let's just stop there, because when you went to Deuteronomy 28, and we have read Deuteronomy 28, and that, of course that slave ship is in there, and so on and so forth. We have found this out through time. It's very rare that you will hear a person who's Jewish like yourself who would actually admit that the prophecy of our Holocaust that happened from the shores of Africa was actually, Bible prophecies concerning the children of Israel, because we were raised in church, even the southern churches, and where I was raised, where I was raised, they had areas where they showed the slaves, they had, like old ships and old posts where they would auction off our ancestors there, a bill of sales in certain areas down south. So I was from these areas in which, slavery is alive and well, even till this day in some of those areas concerning the rich history related to it. Now, told in the churches, though, down south, even though our family linked to Sierra Leone and all the African posts, that through the slave trade, my mother, my father, my family, I was told in church that I was from the seed of Ham. So my question is, if you found this out, and we know this now, and it links to Deuteronomy 28, and they were teaching in the Bible, someone
someone purposely distorted the teachings concerning the Bible, linking the blacks who were part of the slave trade, and turned it around and made these people believe they were from an entirely different race.
Yeah. Well, it's that they're not reading their Bible correctly, and they're not taking the scriptures as a whole. Now, we know that Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. We know that Shem is the father of the Jewish and Arab peoples. We know that Ham is the father of black people. But listen to this. That's where this is where people go off track and go off trail, and this is where people don't look at the scriptures as a whole. Even though that Ham was the father of the black people, Shem was the father of the Jewish and the Arab peoples, which they're dark as well. And we see that a lot of the patriarchs of the 12 tribes married Canaanite women. In other words, they married black women. Now, to start with, Jews and Hebrews were dark anyway. They were a red, rich, mahogany, dark color. But with marrying Canaanite women that were slightly darker than themselves, it changed the genetics of the Hebrew people and made them even darker than before. So a lot of the patriarchs, such as Judah, such as Simeon and these others, married Canaanite women, and it brought this in. So they're not entirely wrong in saying that the black people are of Ham, but they're not taking into consideration the intermarriage between Ham and Shem, especially with the slave trade, because the majority of those black people that were involved in the slave trade, taken away into slavery, were Hebrew people, especially through West Africa and the West African coast and the East African coast.
Well, let me. I want this to sit in for a second.
Okay.
Let me ask you this, because we all know that Moses was raised in an Egyptian house.
Yes.
Egyptians are Hamites or Hamitic. We're not speaking of the modern day Egyptians that were taken over after the Greeks came into play.
Exactly.
We're talking about the ancient Egyptians were black people.
That's right.
All right? Now, if Moses was able to pass for an Egyptian as a child and was protected in Pharaoh's house, he must have he had the same hue as the Egyptians. So that wouldn't have anything to do with whether or not his family dealt with Canaanites, because this was well before Israel went into the land of Canaan. This is an Israelite on the waters, taken off of the waters, and protected in an Egyptian house, which were Hamitic, dark-skinned people. Now, we're not cutting hairs, because this is really verifying a lot of what you're saying. My question to you, sir, outside of all the variables of how things could have gotten to, as far as color is concerned, and all the conspiracy that's out there, prophecy tells us who these people are. My question to you, sir, is why they didn't teach this to the children of slaves. I'm talking about the people who came directly off of the ships. A lot of those that were in charge knew who these people were. Why didn't they tell the children of slaves? Well, and listen, and I know this isn't in your line of questions, but you went there when I didn't pull out the black people being Hebrews. You did. You understand?
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
So my question to you, just moving it just a little bit, why didn't they tell the children of slaves that there was a possibility that they could be from the children of Israel?
You back into the show?
Are we still there?
Yeah, we're there. I'm here. I'm with you.
Oh, okay. Something interrupted. Well, we are a fallen people. Through Adam, we are a fallen people. So we have this tendency to want to control, manipulate, and have power over others. And for that simple fact, the slave traders were not even about to tell the black people who they were or where they were from.
Hold on 1 second. let's get this corrected here. I'm sorry. One moment. Hello?
Yes.
Okay, something is going on there. One moment. One moment. Hello?
Yes.
Okay, 1 second, sir. Hey, Brother Gaja, are you there? Well, I mean, what's going on here? I apologize to you, sir.
Oh, that's okay.
I don't know if they was queued to go to break or what because I'm in another area, and they had to call me in. So we are actually going through a line from the radio station within in England right now.
Okay.
All right. I'm sorry about that. Going back to the original. Yes.
Okay, if you can hear me, that wasn't from my side. I think it's something in the connection. Like the connections got hacked for a second there. I don't know what that was, but right now you're coming in clearly. So go ahead. Just please continue.
Oh, okay. So my question was, because you was answering to why they hid this from the children of slaves.
Right. Well, like I said, we're a fallen people. Through Adam, we are a fallen race. And, you know, because of our fallen nature, we have a tendency to want to strike out against or to oppose anything that is different than ourselves. And, you know, this is what happened with the white slave traders, even if they did know. Now, I'm not sure if they did know or didn't know that they were Hebrews. I suspect that some of them did, but I suspect as equally as some of them didn't, because a lot of the whites were just as brainwashed through religion and through the religious dogma of saying that because they're in the new world, they're the new Israel, and God is done with the Jews, and this replacement theology. So when they brought the black slaves over, they wanted power. They wanted control. So they were not about to tell who they really were if they knew who they really were. But we see that archaeology even is jaded and is tainted, because if you look at the Egyptian monuments, if you notice the ruins of Egypt, the noses and lips are knocked off. Why? To hide the fact that the original first Egyptians were black people, were Hamitic people. And the white people wanted to hide this fact because they didn't want to admit that blacks were the first rulers of the world and not white people. So you have that prejudice there. You have that fallen nature. You have that jaded slant on things because they want power and they want control. And as a result, a lot of white religious people have misinterpreted scriptures and come up with erroneous, stupid, racist doctrines, such as, I'm sure you've heard this, oh, well, black people are from Ham because they're cursed, and they're black because Noah cursed Canaan. Well, that's just ludicrous. That's just absurd. But that's what early white people taught, and that's what early white people believed. And so in connection to that religious brainwashing, they looked at slaves not as Hebrews, not as Israelites, but as a cursed people, and to be treated as such.
Hey, I commend you. I greatly commend you. Let's go on, because I know our time is running out, and I don't want no other unforeseen intervention to happen in the midst of this conversation here, because I think this conversation is in the heavens here. Now, one thing we've researched, and I hope you've looked into it. If not, we'll just go to the next question. We noticed that when the Most High God of Israel, at the mount was speaking to Moses, and Moses asked the Most High, who can I go back and tell them who sent you in Exodus 3? And the Most High said, tell them I have sent you.
Yeah.
Now, I am is in the ancient Phoenician Ahaya Ashar Ahaya, but in the modern day Hebrew, it's Aye Ashar Aye. My question to you, because we did some research on the Tetragrammaton and realized that name of the Tetragrammaton, it actually was also affiliated with Edom and the Canaanite gods, which is the Tetragrammaton, which we did some research on. My question is, if the Most High said his name was Ahia Ashar Ahia, why is that name not, or that sacred name, not being spoken or told to the public?
Okay. Well, this may be a point that we may have to agree to disagree agreeably as brothers. I believe through what I've researched and through what I've read, the conclusions that I've come to is Aye Asher Aye is not a proper name as much as it is a description. People have nicknames like, some mobsters. You have Frankie the Fixer. So if somebody says, well, the fixer is going to get you, you know that the fixer is a description of that mobster that's after you. It's not necessarily his proper name. It's just a description that has become a nickname, so to speak. So I think that when Ayer Asher Aye was spoken, God was telling Moses to tell the people, look, you tell them that I am has sent you, meaning I'm the one that is the first, the last. I'm the one who always was, always will be. It was more of a description to bring about that monotheistic theme to the children of Israel, to let them know that Moses wasn't talking about anybody else. He wasn't talking about some pagan deity or some temporal deity or some demigod, but he was talking about the one true God of the universe. Now, Yud-He-Vav-He, or Yud-He-Wav-He, however you want to say it, some people say Jehovah, some people say Yahweh. That has, as I understand it, is the proper name. That is the name that a lot of Jews will not say or speak out loud for fear of taking it in vain or misusing it. From my understanding and my research, that is the name that was used in the tabernacle and in the temple and in the Holy of Holies. And sadly, I see that name being tossed around quite a bit. And that is a proper name. Now you have descriptions, you have a proper name, and you also have titles. Titles could also be descriptors, I guess you could say, but you have words like Elohim, Adonai, things of this nature. These are more titles than they are proper names, but they're all referring to the same God. So, in Exodus 6:3 it says, and I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob by the name of Elohim Shaddai, or God Almighty, but my name is Yahweh, Yud-He-Vav-He. Was I not known by them? So I believe that Yahweh is his proper name, and Ayer Asher Aye is actually a descriptor designating him as a monotheistic God, as the one true God of the universe.
Okay, well, let me ask you, because I want to go to the next question. Let me ask you, so when Moses asked him, what is the name? Who can I say sent me? And the Most High said, as you pronounce today, Aye Asher Aye. Did Moses go back and say, Aye Asher Aye to the children of Israel when they asked him what is his name? Because in description, when I look at it in the ancient Hebrew script, the name, he distinctly asked the Most High to give him his name, to return that name to the people, to actually speak, because we know that Egyptians have many gods. So if Moses was going to go back into Egypt and present this God, he would have to show a distinction between the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and the gods of Egypt. So when Moses was asking him this for a purpose, because he said, when I go back, when they ask me, who is he, who shall I say is your name? So what name did the Most High give him at that point to go back to the Hebrews with?
Well, if he told Moses.
What I'm asking in particular, was it Aye Asher Aye that he told him?
If that's what he said to tell them, that's what he told them. If that's what God said to tell them, that's what he told them. Now, and we've already discussed that descriptors can actually turn into names themselves, and sometimes people are known by descriptors, like, as I mentioned, Frankie the Fixer. The Fixer would be his descriptor, but it also kind of became his name. And so, if that's what God told Moses to tell the people, that's what he said to the people.
Okay. All right. So you say we can agree to disagree. We'll go back to that in a moment because there's two more questions I have to hit right before we conclude this. And
okay.
I'd like to tell you, we really appreciate this. This has been a groundbreaking conversation, and I don't know if you're met with much pushback and controversy yourself. We'll talk about that later, but let me ask you this. Going right along, on a political side of things, and I'm glad that we transitioned this and cut down what you would call the color barrier concerning this particular topic. Usually, there's some disdain or some type of conflict, because I'll tell you this. There's a big movement on the web, on YouTube and other areas as far as teaching goes, in which what the government have labeled Black Hebrew Israelites, which I think that's more so an enunciation or a proclamation to make everyone believe that's the attitude and action of all Hebrews. When one hear about a Hebrew who's not Jewish, they more so go online and point to some rogue people cursing people out based on color. When that's, I would say, the minority opinion or the minority understanding, and more so the ignorant way of, if what they were bringing, some of them what they were bringing are correct. Going about cursing and demeaning other people is against the way of the Most High God.
Right.
So my question here, because I'm just tearing down the middle wall, which is the race scenario, because I don't agree with everyone just because they're Black and Hebrew. By the same token, I don't agree with the straight out hatred and racism that comes from white Jewish people, and I'm sure
exactly.
you can agree with that. Now, when I look at what's going on in Israel today, I'm a little appalled at some of the geopolitical activity that's going on there. I just found out, this just came to my attention, someone sent it to me through the email, how there's a detention center over in Israel, or in the desert of Israel, in which they're rounding people up, those who are refugees, those who have made Israel their home for years, and some have even, have taken on the culture there. They're being moved in the detention centers over there, and I don't understand how usually when you look at Jewish people in the Western world, they teach multiculturalism. They teach all should be able to get along regardless of race or whatever the case is. But over in Israel, something else is going on. They're saying that Israel should be for Jewish people. And Black people are now, a lot of Black people, I've seen it online, and I've been appalled with some of the Black women when they come in. The refugees been coming into Israel, and they've been given these pills and didn't know they were getting shots to be sterilized. And now they're rounding them up and putting them in detention centers in the desert. Did you know this was going on in Israel?
Yeah, I've heard that this was happening, and it just totally disgusts me. Now, Israel, as it stands today, is not the real Israel. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that Israel, as it exists today as a state, is just a geopolitical entity. It's only about the size of the state of New Jersey. Now, when you read the promised land, the borders of the promised land that God gave to Abraham, saying, this is going to be the promised land, this is going to be yours. Does Israel today own that big, wide swath of land that would encompass parts of Turkey and Iran and Iraq? Of course not. they only own a small strip of land the size of New Jersey. And so Israel today is not the real Israel. It's not the Israel that God has intended. I know that I'm making a lot of people upset with me right now. I know that I'm ticking a lot of people off, but I've got to tell it like it is. People today, especially a lot of the fundamentalist Christians, have this romanticized view of the state of Israel. Oh, we support Israel. We love Israel. And people ask me, oh, have you been to Israel? No. They're like, oh, you're a rabbi and you've never been to Israel? No. Do you want to go? Well, it'd be nice to visit, but I can take it or leave it. They're like, how can you say that? I'm like, why do I want to go to Israel when it's just a big tourist trap and it's a big tourist attraction? It's not the real Israel. Why do I want to go to the Israel that exists today when my Bible says that in the new heaven and in the new earth, and even before that, during the millennial reign, I'm going to live there anyway? I'm going to live in the real Israel, the one that Messiah Yeshua is going to establish. That, my friend, is going to be the real Israel. So the people that are calling themselves Jews today, the people that are running the state of Israel and doing these horrible atrocities to their brothers, the black Hebrew brothers, it's disgusting. They are not the real Israel. You know, it is kind of like Christianity. Hitler claimed to be a Christian. A lot of the Nazis claimed to be a Christian. And this Holocaust was done in the name of Christ. Well, did Christ condone that? Of course not. But people did it in the name of Christ. Now, you have police officers out on the streets today that are crooked cops. You know, they'll beat down somebody, smack down somebody, steal their drugs, and resell them on the street. You have quack doctors out there who will practice grossly and actually harm people and go against the Hippocratic Oath. Well, they're doing these things in the name of the law, and they're doing these names in the Hippocratic Oath. Does that mean that the law and the Hippocratic Oath backs them up in what they're doing? No. So it's the same with Christians. You know, just because something's done in the name of Christ doesn't mean it's condoned by Christ. Just because something that is done in the name of Israel or the God of Israel doesn't mean that the God of Israel condones it.
Hey, I'm ready to stand up and give you a round of applause here, but
all praise be to God, my friend.
All praise be to the Most High God. Yes. One other thing I would like to, because we did an interview with the rabbi in England about 2.5, 3 years ago, and he brought some things to light he confirmed a lot of things that I don't think most Christians know. Written in the Talmud, speaking to some heinous things against Christ and saying that he's in hell, in human excrement, and that saying that Mary was a harlot, all types of vulgar things when it comes to Christ. And I didn't understand this when speaking with him. I'm like, if any Jew would look to defame or destroy the most famous Jew, it's backwards to me. When I grew up in church, I began to respect Jewish people, even in my ignorance, because I thought they were related to my Lord and Savior. You understand? So,
yeah.
Because we were told the chosen people, Jesus Christ. So by default, Jewish people receive respect off of Christ, as far as I'm concerned. As far as when I was growing up, the majority of people respected Jewish people because they thought Jewish people were related to Christ. And then I was perplexed to realize that the Jewish faith or Judaism is grounded as an enemy of Christ, as far as the faith of not believing in him. And I don't even think Christian churches today understand that the Israel they support, the majority of them loathe Christ.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
So, but I take it you are a fervent believer in Christ.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, praise the Most High. Praise the Most High. Well, hey, brother, this has been a. Let me ask you: are you looking to go to the state of Israel?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do have an Hebrew friend there that wants me to come and travel and speak about the Hebrew connection to Israel. So I definitely want to go. You know, if I have the chance to go, I'll go. But do I have this overwhelming romantic desire to go there? No, I don't, because I'm going to end up living there forever anyway on the new heaven and the new earth. It's mine anyway.
Yeah.
Like I said, why do I want to go and live in a tourist trap when that's not the real Israel that God intended? But if I get the opportunity to go and I get the invite, I will. I'll get on the plane and I'll go, and I'll serve my Lord to the very best of my ability while I'm there.
Okay. Someone just sent me one last question. Let me give you this. This is outside of me, and told me, can I ask this question, if you don't mind? The genealogies of the Bible are plain when it comes to man begot man. They deal with woman, the seed goes through man, and that's how old time how we were able to track genealogies. Even Ham, Shem, and Japheth, even as you know, even Ham, Shem, and Japheth, their line in Genesis 10 is through the men. This is how you track the bloodlines on the earth. Even Abraham all the way down, Isaac, Jacob, these are all men. Women cannot bear the seed to bring forth the nation. So the question that was posed is, how is it and when did it happen that now Jewish people link their lineage through women?
The reason that occurred, that's a very good question, a very valid question. And the reason that occurred was predominantly because of the pogroms and because of the Holocaust. During the pogroms and during the Holocaust, there was a lot of Jewish women who were raped by Gentile men, and therefore they conceived by Gentile men. So these children that were born, they didn't know who their fathers were, but they knew who their mothers were. And that's why the lineage is now traced through the woman. Now, if you ask me, I accept both methods. If you can trace your lineage to a Hebraic or Jewish lineage through your mother's side or your father's side, it doesn't matter. If it's there on either side of the family, it's there, and you're part of Israel. But to answer that question, that's the reason why today predominantly it's traced through the mother.
Okay, well, I understand the reason they did it, but being that we know that the lines or what you would call the genealogy comes through the man, and the Most High God never changed that. Even if someone took on their mother's religion, their mother way of life, wouldn't they still be the nation of the Father when it comes to nation and dividing nations and lines?
Well, not necessarily, because genetics is genetics. You do get some genetics from your father, and you get certain genetics from your mother. So when a child is born, they are a part of both fleshes. It's just a matter of who you decide to trace your genealogy from. Some people may have a genealogy on the father's side that they're not proud of, or that, let's say that they're a product of incest or a product of rape or whatnot, and they don't want to go that route or claim that lineage because they want to go against that, and maybe they'll choose their mother's lineage. But, because of genetics, you have a little bit of your mother and a little bit of your father in you, and if your mother was Jewish or your father was Jewish or vice versa, any one of them, maybe both, you still have some Hebraic blood within you, regardless if it comes from the mother or the father.
Okay.
But I understand biblically why, God has chosen to go through the male line.
Okay, all right. Well, that's the answer to your question there. Now, whether you agree with it, it doesn't matter. This is the answer. So now, last but not least, you've been such a great guest this evening, Yehuda, correct? Rabbi
Yes.
Yehuda. That I kind of figured that I would give you a tip if you haven't read or have received this tip already. More so, a tip for you, and we're going to upload We know we got about 3 or 4 people who want to ask you some questions. It's almost 58 minutes on, so I'm done right now. It round off the time that I have to be on here. But let me ask you. Let me give you a tip. If you're going to visit Israel sooner than later, because according to prophecy, with the war coming, there will be no people left in Israel very soon. And because there's a prophecy in which after they go against Iran, and they will go against Iran, that there will be a great sacrifice in that particular land, and the kings of that area will leave that area, which is the leaders that are from Rome who placed themselves there. They will flee into Kittim, which is Cyprus, for a time, and they'll go back and become a part of the EU, which is Rome itself. So what I'm saying is, when they went into Israel, they knew that they would have people sacrificed there, and that they would actually go back to the mother hub. And they understand this. So what I'm saying is that Israel will soon be a death trap for those that are there. We're supposed to be on the outer borders of that area and only go back when Christ returns. When Christ returns, he's going to judge and purge the area and make it righteous and make it right for the righteous from the wilderness into the land. They had no right to proclaim a restoration. You cannot have a restoration without a king. So normally I don't put things out there. You're the guest. You're the expert tonight. We wanted some questions. We wanted to ask you some questions, and obviously we see through the Spirit why the Most High had this dialogue tonight, and that's my advice to you. Now, ironically, I probably should have, but the rabbi that I interviewed about a few years ago, he frustrated me so much, and he demeaning our king, and I reluctantly didn't give him that advice. I didn't give him that tip, but that's a tip for you, my brother.
Well, I surely appreciate it, and I will definitely take that to heart and look into that. And I wholeheartedly agree with you that when Messiah comes, he is going to clean house. He is going to restore things back to the way it should be. And I rejoice and I await that time.
All right, bless you. It's been more than an honor to meet you, and hopefully we can share even offline if it be the Most High's will. Okay?
Certainly.